So, could we begin by just doing a few introductions, just for those Virgin fans in Japan and the Far East who don't quite yet know you individually? If you wouldn't mind just introducing what you do in the back.
I'm Dawn and I sing and write songs.
I'm Steve and I am the chief guitar wrangler.
I'm Christian, I'm doing the visuals and things.
Excellent, thanks for that. So that was a rather good gig, supporting Toya.
Yes.
And you've done it before, I believe.
Yeah, we played with her in Brighton. What I really liked about this gig was that we'd nabbed some of her fans.
Yes.
These obsessive types. And since, was it Thursday before last?
Yes.
Some of them had learned
Some
the lyrics.
of them knew the lyrics.
They'd learned
That
the
was
lyrics.
great. No, that was really good.
And they were up there with their adoring eyes.
I saw some hugging.
lyrics,
I saw some
yes.
hugging going on at one
There was
point.
hugging going on, yeah.
We liked hugging.
I like flirting with the audience, as well as scaring them.
So you enjoyed it then?
It was really good fun.
It was a good night, yeah.
It'd be nice to play for longer.
Yes, yeah. It would have been the amount of agonising that went through trying to choose that set list, because it's like, you know, if one thing goes in, then something else has to go out. So somebody's darling is like, but I wanted to play that. But I think.
And also, you know, listening to your fans as well, because we've got some really hardcore fans, and if they're coming all the way from Edinburgh, and they say,
Or even Glasgow.
Sorry, and they say, would you please play a certain song? Well,
You've got to play.
got to, haven't we, really?
A friend of mine really liked that one as well. She's never seen us before, she said.
So back to basics for those who aren't that familiar with the band. How did Das Fluff come together then?
Ooh.
And when?
But that was quite weird actually, because I started off doing electronic music when I was young, and then I was doing acoustic music, and then I have a sort of, I quite like walking up to people who I don't know in bars and saying, "Are you a musician?" And so I did that to someone who looked like he was probably a Smiths fan. And I said, "Are you a musician?" He said, "No." And I didn't really believe him. And then it turns out that he'd actually been making electronic music for the last sort of 20 years of his life. And we ended up working together. And that's how I started doing the electronic stuff again. And then we got Steve in.
I was poached from a jazz band.
Yeah.
Ah,
So Steve was doing jazz. Steve was doing jazz.
I was doing jazz.
He's doing the J word.
Smooth or trad?
It was a mixture.
But we don't talk about that anymore.
We don't.
Sorry.
So it was more rescue.
It was rescue. Steve was rescued from a jazz band.
And apart from a few sort of issues and things, having been a rescue jazz, rescue jazz guitarist,
Yeah.
but I don't crap on the carpet anymore. I'm quite good.
But that was quite interesting. So I started out just singing, writing songs with this person who was producing all the electronic tracks, and then we sort of moved on, and Steve and I carried on working together, and he departed unwillingly, and I had to sort of take over with the electronic stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think I remember this guy being in the band.
Yes.
Okay.
And I owe him a lot, because I learnt a lot from what he did, and we wrote some songs together, which we still do, which I still really like. But it became important to me to kind of strip down the sound, because he liked this big sort of lush, multi-layered sound, and I wanted something that was a bit more primal, really. More.
I've got to ask the question because I wasn't a fan when I first read it or saw it, but the name, Das Fluff. Where does that come from?
There
What's that all about?
isn't a good story.
Oh, isn't there? Oh,
No.
God, I thought there ought to be.
There is not a good story.
We ought to invent one, shouldn't we? Yes.
The only story I can give you is, I don't know, I just had this thing about poodles and fluff, and we were at a party trying to think of a band name, and I was partly texting people and asking people in the room, and then we came up with, I think it was Le Fluff, wasn't it? And then Christian is German, and he said, "Das Fluff." I thought, genius.
That's definitely better than the.
So we went from sort of, you know, the sort of masculine definite article in French to the sort of the neuter, you know, in German. So
We embrace all sexualities.
exactly, all sexualities and races.
To the uninitiated, how would you describe the Das Fluff sound?
Dirty electro filth.
Twisted cyber disco. I don't know. It's very dark. It's very dark, but I think it's quite. Our songs are quite varied. So there are some sort of quite minimal ambient tracks, and some quite clubby tracks, and some quite sort of, I don't know, more dramatic, I suppose.
Well, I thought there might be sort of more to Das Fluff than on face what immediately appears. And I wondered if you were kind of sort of subverting electro pop or something.
I hope we're subverting something.
Type of television as disease.
You're going to have good fun editing this.
Yes.
I like to just let it play normally. I'll just leave it all in.
So you were talking about subversion.
Yeah, I thought perhaps you were deliberately subverting
There's
electro
no
pop.
conscious decision really. In
I
anything
don't
we
think
do.
there's ever been a deliberate attempt. You know, I don't think there's ever been a deliberate attempt to think, oh, we want to sound like
No.
this. It just seems to sort of come out.
Oh, well, I wonder, because there's definitely a lot of different influences in the sound coming in, and I didn't know if that was individually you'll bring different disparate elements, or whether you've actually all got quite diverse tastes, and that's just like a melting
Well, I
pot.
think.
I think we've got quite diverse tastes. I think there are certain things that we probably all agree on. There's certain things we all like, I would say. But I would, yes, I think it is very diverse. So I think, when Dawn brings something, something she's written or something she's done, then I, will sometimes splurge my electric guitar mouse kit all over it, and it's that kind of it's not a deliberate, so I think there is that sort of clash where not a clash, but a just interesting sort of accidental element to it, I guess. I don't think
We've never had a sort of a musical manifesto.
No.
We've never even discussed, really, have we?
What do I think?
What we're doing?
No,
It's like, what the fuck were we doing?
It's never been that sort of thing where, I remember the first band I was in, we definitely wanted to be the Jam or the Clash, when I was 14, 15, and, I was in a band and that's what we wanted to sound like, whereas we've never had this, there's never been a sort of deliberate, oh yeah, we want to be, it's usually other people who, when you see reviews and things like that, where people compare things, and sometimes you think, oh yeah, that's quite a good one, and other times you think, I don't see that at all.
So the new album, Meditation and Violence, has just been released, which is rather terrific, by the way. And I just wondered how pleased you were with it.
I'm really pleased with it, and I don't know if it's improper to be pleased with your own album.
I think it sounds really good. I think it's a real step on from the first one. It's very it's different sounding, but obviously the same band. But
The production is much better as well, because we had someone really good producing.
just
it, yeah.
production arrangement. I think the song's very good on it. Not the song the first one weren't, but I think I think it's a real step on.
But I'm really looking forward to doing the next album, because we've almost got all the tracks
Really?
for the third album. Yeah. So
And how long did Meditation and Violence take to come together? Because it's only just been released.
It's difficult to say really, because some of the songs were written more recently, and some of them were probably maybe a year and a half.
Yeah, maybe about. I suppose it's over a spread of maybe about a year.
Yeah.
But then it's almost like there's a couple that were older ones, and then there was a kind of flurry of new ones. Most of them are newer ones, I think.
Yeah. I think because I was suddenly on my own with the electronics, and I suddenly had to produce things on my own without the collaborator I'd worked with before. I don't know his name, David Roberts. He's great. He's really great. blossoming for me. It's been a real challenge for me to get to grips with electronic software because I'm quite a technophobe. But it's been inspirational as well, and to realise that I can actually create all these electronic arrangements. You know, prior to that, I'd done some on my little Casio. So it's kind of, it's like a big adventure, really.
You've released a couple of singles from the new album with videos for each, quite striking stuff. And the latest one, Rage, which is the opening track on the new album, to me, I thought it was a bit of a summation of sort of Das Fluff's approach, which is you sort of get moments of calm and quiet before like a storm of noise, like the meditation and violence of the title sort of thing. That seems to me to be quite a sort of a defining characteristic of Das Fluff. Would you agree, or do you think that's nonsense?
No, I think that's totally it. No, for me, it's very much part of my kind of personality as well, being a calm, nice yoga teacher, and then having lots of rage and having
blowing up buildings.
Yeah, wanting to blow up buildings.
Because your lyrics too seem to be a bit of a mix of the sort of playful and the dark, and you sound quite angry, almost frustrated at times when you're singing. And I wondered if you were generally angry people.
We have
I think everyone has anger in them,
Yeah.
just not everyone is prepared to show it, and I need to show my anger, otherwise I will explode.
You wouldn't want that to happen.
I don't know, I think I'm a sort of hyper emotional person, and it comes out in the songs, and it's kind of, I think it's kind of positive because it has a, I don't know. I mean, I think
It's
some
quite
people,
distinctive
I think
as
some
well.
people probably find us too dark. I mean, Frank, who put this show on, he was commenting how much darker we are now to how we were before, and the same thing happened in Tokyo. We went back, we played for the same promoter after a year, and first of all I walked in, he said, in my stage outfit for the first gig, he said, "You look like the angel of death." I thought, okay, I won't wear that outfit again. And then he was saying, "Oh, you're so dark now. You're so dark. What's happening? What's happened?" And so I tried to counter that with humour and with playing with the audience, playing to the audience, having fun with the audience. I don't want to alienate people, but I think so many people are unhappy. So many people have this raw emotion inside them, and that's why we listen to these heartbreaking songs when we're teenagers, because we need to feel that someone else has that pain.
It's interesting you say that. When you said about teenagers, I mean, it's not just the preserve of teenagers, is it?
No.
I mean, did you think about an audience when you write, or do you just create and then whoever accepts it accepts it?
It's very spontaneous the way I write. I don't, like Steve was saying, nothing is premeditated. You might think, okay, I want to write something with a fast beat or a dirty bass line. But sometimes you just find yourself writing something, like Moonsong.
We'll come on to that.
I have no real control over what I write.
I think the thing is I think you're in trouble if you start, any band, if you start trying to write for a demographic or something, then it becomes, like sort of, well, if you decide, well, I want a 25-year-old in Guildford to sort of... Yeah, I was just... Hello?
Is there one?
Yeah, just send her
Got a particular one in mind.
No, you know what I mean? That sort of thing. I think if a band, you get things like, what was it? I remember hearing about Linkin Park or something, where Linkin Park are called Linkin Park because by calling them that, they were next to the Limp Bizkit in the record racks.
Oh no.
And that's precisely why they were named like that. Yeah, yes. Because they would be next to, sort of that whole sort of new metal thing, which was, which it's just, so calculated, and so yeah, we're not Linkin Park. Can I just point that out?
That's the title.
Just in
That's the
case.
title of the interview there.
Yeah.
Just a couple of tracks I wanted to pick out from the album, but it's hard to do so, but these are just things that just popped out because it's really a solid album right across the board. And it's quite diverse stylistically as well, which I think is really, really a strength. But you'll probably hate me asking this anyway, but Drop Break Slip Crash sounded to me like it was channeling John Fox a bit, and I wondered if that was accidental or by design as a bit of a homage.
Completely accidental.
I only know one John Fox
I know.
track.
I'm
afraid.
I don't own any John Fox vinyl. I don't think you do either, do you?
No.
No.
Should get by more of his stuff.
Oh,
you'll like
okay,
it.
yeah, so yeah.
And there's a song on the album called Tokyo Daisuke, which is a superb slab of sort of electronic beats and observational lyrics. And I'm guessing this was inspired by your first tour in Japan last year.
Yeah.
Well, if you could tell us a little bit about that, because I think it's a really entertaining song.
It was really amazing playing in Tokyo. Firstly, because it's such an extraordinary place. You've been to Tokyo as well, obviously. And lovely people and phenomenal venues. You know, brilliant lighting, brilliant sound, amazing staff, very slick. You know, you're lucky to get that kind of stuff in London. I've been fortunate tonight. But the response from the audience was very, very touching and exciting. And I just wanted to write a thank you. And so I wrote this very upbeat, sort of clubby number. Very upbeat. I don't really do upbeat. I don't do joyful songs, but this is a joyful song. It's Tokyo, I Love You. And then we went back again to play there, and we always did that track at the end, and people were singing along, and they loved it, and they were kind of, it was like they were grateful that someone was expressing their love for their city, and that's the song that got people whipping their tops off.
That's got to be a good thing, isn't it?
Yeah, including the woman.
Am I right in saying that when you were out there, you filmed the video for the song as well?
Yeah, we were on there was a rooftop on a hotel. So that was actually filmed before I'd written the song. Christian films all the time. He's like a voyeur. You know, if I go and go into a shop and I'm in the dressing room trying something on, I'll look behind me. Christian has got his camera. It's like peeping Tom. He's got his camera and he's filming me.
I don't have the spine.
You didn't have the spine. Let's point that out.
So that last video for Disconnect, where he'd literally just filmed me walking the streets of loads and loads of different
Well, it
places.
started in London, and then it was Berlin, then it was Seoul, and then it was Tokyo, and then it was San Francisco, and it just became this theme.
Yeah.
And it felt really kind of nice and graphical and connecting it all together.
Yeah.
What journeys.
So it must have been shot over a very long period of time then, all those elements.
It wasn't really.
It was about 6 months.
Oh, was it? Oh, right.
Yeah.
You get around a bit.
We
It's
just
been a
had a real
crazy year.
frenzy. Yeah, we did have a real frenzy of a tour. Which was
Oh
very
yeah, so just on the Japan thing, I wondered, you mentioned in the lyrics of Tokyo Daisuke, but I wondered if when you were there you happened to stay in a love hotel.
I really wanted to. You've stayed in a
I
hotel,
have.
haven't you?
Have you?
Yes,
They're good, aren't they?
The big bathtubs.
It's that kind of little. It's like a village of love hotels. Isn't
yes,
there?
yeah, and you get these ones with themed rooms and
Yeah.
things like this.
What was your room?
No, mine was just very, very plush, and it had this kind of mini bar full of sort of sex toys and lubricant and things in it, and it was actually sort of first getting a relationship together with a girlfriend. It was our first night together. So, you know, it was our first, it's very memorable, yes. So I've been to the Love Hotel.
How do you top that?
Sorry?
How do you top
Was
that?
30 minutes enough in the love hotel?
We did the whole 8 hours. You have a thing, a rest or a stay. a rest is something like it's an hour or something, and then you pay a certain amount, and the stay is 8 hours. So we did sleep some of it. Let's not go into this.
So from the ridiculous to the sublime, the last song on the album is the beautiful Moon song, and it's essentially just your voice, Dawn, and a warm synth tone. And I think it's one of your finest moments, and I wonder what inspired that song.
I don't know if I can put this on film, really. Where were we? We were in it was in Asia somewhere, wasn't it? We were somewhere in Asia.
Probably Thailand.
Yeah, and I just had the laptop and a little keyboard which I take with me so I can write on there. And I just started improvising with the synth. And it was very, very random. And it's quite a strange, it's a very strangely structured song. And odd timing. And I was literally just improvising with the keyboards, and it just happened to work. And yeah, I can't say who I wrote that song about.
Okay. And have you got any news you can share with us yet about that song? Or is it too early?
No. Something really exciting has happened because I'm an admirer of Scanner, the great electronic master of the universe, and he tweeted a couple of years ago. He tweeted some sort of poppy track that he'd remixed. So I tweeted him back saying, "Well, do you fancy remixing this?" And he liked it, and he said, "Yeah, let's do something." It's just quite a long time ago, and then we had sort of kind of aborted attempts to get something to work. And then when we did the Toya gig in Brighton, and I think it was just before we went on, and I got a text from him saying, "Right, let's do it." And he listened to the album, and he chose Moon Song, and he's done this really epic remix of Moon Song. So it's but it's not just Fluff, but it's sections of the song, and it's obviously my voice, and he's done something quite extraordinary with it. So we're looking forward to doing that, and Christian's been making a really lovely video for it.
Terrific. Look forward to hearing and seeing that. Actually, the next question was about the videos. You've got some great videos, and over quite a period of time, you've released a lot of videos for individual songs and for singles, and it's a really good body of work. And I wondered if you any plans to release those on a DVD or a compilation, or an album and video compilation.
It's a nice idea, actually, isn't it? Because they're all really, they're really strong.
We obviously need a marketing manager. No, we should do that actually. Christian.
Yeah, but it's also nice to have it up on YouTube and just have it there for everyone to see. I like that idea.
Yeah.
To share.
Maybe a sort of a digi double pack for the next album or something.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Good. Please.
Yeah, good idea.
Do your special DVD.
Oh, that'd be cool. A while back, you did a fascinating piece with a guy called Paul Wadey, is it?
Oh yeah.
Oh,
A track called Last Name, which is quite interesting. I wondered if you could just tell us a little bit about that and how that came together.
That was quite odd as well, because that was when I was working with David, and he would give me some backing tracks, and then I'd write something, to go along with it. And this particular track, I just created as a monologue about a one-night stand, just from the point of view from the woman. So you just hear her voice speaking to this man who basically wants to get out of the room, who wants to leave. And she's very awkwardly sort of implying that, she'd like to spend more time with him. And it's just cringe-making. It's not from personal experience, because I've never had a one-night stand. That's actually true. And the backing track to that was it's kind of quite jolly. It didn't really go with the sort of austerity of the which he's very proud of. His move has a name, and he has quite an intense relationship with his name.
Yes.
He's actually going to give me a master class in. I've been a bit petrified of using these things, but I'm gonna get a master class in moog making. But yeah, Paul created this very, very different.
I really liked it. I think
Yeah,
it's really good.
it's quite chilling. You know, it's quite chilling and scary, and then Christian did a sort of a black and white video, which is quite disturbing as well. And I think it's quite interesting. You know, you hear the version of it from the first album, and then you hear that, and it really marks, I think, the transition into darkness.
I will ask this question. I wasn't sure if I would or not, but I was curious. I was going to ask about your costumes, Dawn, because they're quite a memorable part of your live shows, and tonight's one was very good and in very Das Fluff colours, the black and the yellow. And I wonder where you get them all.
It's like a full-time job. I've been collecting vintage clothes since I was about 14, 15, and being in a band is such a brilliant excuse for buying excessive amounts of vintage clothing. And I started sort of make stuff as well. And, I think this was bought in San Francisco. I think it was really exciting going to America, going to Portland and San Francisco, which are two of the capitals of vintage clothing. And I bought so much stuff. We very nearly,
exceeded your allowance.
It's a nice problem to have. I wanted to ask what the score was on the record label front, because you effectively self-released the first two albums, if I remember correctly, and I believe you've been approached a few times in your travels.
We've had 3 offers since we started playing, and each of them was kind of alluring because they were from 3 different people that I really respect. It's difficult to know these days whether to go it alone or not, and I think because these independent labels, they're kind of offering you their contacts and their name and their kudos. They're not giving you anything. So you're still funding.
You have
recording.
to. It's the thing that especially at the moment, you have to tread very carefully because people do promise quite a lot, and sometimes you sort of think, well, I don't know. You have to be a little bit cagey, I guess, about people promising the earth.
Well, presumably one of the things that you want from a label is a big marketing push. Surely that's a big role of a label.
I'd love a swimming pool shaped like an electric guitar. Please.
I don't know. The thing that I really want is to do really good gigs and to tour and to play in decent venues. And it's been great supporting Toya because she has all these obsessive fans, and that's what we want.
We can sort of leech some of them away.
We have been, believe me.
Excellent. You've gigged all over the world, and I wondered if you'd had any favourite venues or cities so far. You've been to sort of Hong Kong, Tokyo, Seoul,
Tokyo's
Berlin.
Seoul was a really weird place to play. Really strange.
Why?
Because as opposed to the Japanese who go crazy, the people in Seoul sit at the back going.
Must be a bit like being at an execution.
Awful. Absolutely horrendous. So we did this gig, and this bands were playing before us, giving it their all. Big, dancey stuff. People should have been at the front, dancing. And they were all sitting there at the back. And I said, how can you bear that? She said, that's what it's like.
Really? So that's just commonplace.
Yeah.
Strange.
Yeah. I mean, I bullied the people there to
Well, I'm not
come to the
surprised.
front. I thought, I'm not doing this. I don't come all the way over here to have you sitting at the back on a chair. But they didn't really know what to do when they got there, so they were sort of. But no, I have no real desire to play there again. But Tokyo is fantastic.
So I'm guessing playing live is very important to each of you, isn't it?
Yes. Oh yeah.
There's nothing like it.
Some good guitar work tonight, I enjoyed that.
I enjoyed that.
No, the live thing is just it's so exciting. It's so amazing.
And what about touring? Because that, there's that double-edged thing of it's a slog, and there's the, when you're backstage it's less glamour, but when you're on stage it's the complete opposite.
It's more glamorous in Tokyo backstage than here. No, it's got to the point where if I go away now, if I go away somewhere and I haven't got a gig, doesn't feel right.
It's missed opportunity as well, presumably. Spreading the death love.
I mean, I hate the times in between gigs. I've been kind of dreading this gig because we probably won't be playing for a while. That time in between gigs is really hard for me. Really hard.
So nothing planned until sometime in the new year, presumably.
Yeah, we don't know.
The fans will be waiting, don't worry. A question for each of you individually. I wondered which artist you would most like to tour with, because you've toured with some big names already, but I'll be quite interested to hear individually.
Oh my gosh. That's a difficult one.
I'm thinking living artists.
Yes, I was just.
Good on.
I can't say Sun Ra and Jimi Hendrix or something. Okay. Gosh.
Christian.
Well, I really like the Pixies, but I don't think we're really sort of, I don't know, sort of, but
I'd like to
I don't
see
know,
I can see that working.
Actually, what a friend of mine said the other day, he thought we'd go quite. I saw Nick Cave the other week, and he said he thought we'd go down quite well with him, so that would be fun.
Well, he lives down in Brighton, doesn't he?
He does.
Pop down and see him, do some more gigs down there.
I think some of those interesting electronic bands, like the Hot Chip, for example, quite interesting.
Yeah.
Work together, or some of the Scandinavian lot, I think would be really interesting. I think that feels like it could be fun.
Yeah.
I'll just take it back.
Have to.
Yeah.
Actually, I quite like to support Gary Newman. Actually,
That's got to
I'm
be
kind of
possible.
I don't want us to be sort of labelled with all this sort of 80s electronic stuff, but I think his stuff was really groundbreaking at the time, and I just saw one of his latest videos from the new album, and I just got the new album on vinyl, and I thought it was great, and I think there's something quite minimal and dark. I think we've got quite a lot in common actually. I mean, I haven't really listened, I haven't been listening to him. I've got the album, I've got the Tube album, and I'm really interested to actually listen to where he's gone with this new album. But if David Bowie, if I had to choose between the two,
You can have them both.
Yeah, let's
Okay, I'll give you Sage.
let's tour with Bowie.
Finally, last question. Thanks for your patience. It's been a long interview, and we've had a few interruptions.
entertaining interruptions.
What question didn't I ask you that on reflection you wish I had? And what would your answer have been?
I'm kind of thinking of what smash hits we would have done. So so like sort of what's your favourite food, something like that. The kind of thing.
Okay, so
when you would read this in Smash Hits, and I remember sort of reading, like sort of or look
Colour was always a good one.
have, and it was just favourite colour or favourite food. So
what's your favourite food then? Steve?
I would probably say broccoli in all its
I
forms.
don't believe that.
Man cannot live on broccoli alone. That's the phrase.
I think that would be unwise. Christian, what about you?
I say hummus.
What?
Sorry, I've got everybody who answered my
On the food question. You can have your own question. Christian, you don't have to answer the food
I
one.
have to answer that food question.
And
Okay.
if I had to talk about food, it would be
Coffee cake?
Coffee and cake.
Oh, coffee and cake, yeah, I do that a lot actually. Thank you very much, that's fun.
Thank you.
You've been entertaining.